He owns and operates the Pack a Day podcast that airs 365 days a year with over 12 million views on YouTube. A new adventure begins. It's time for the Pack a Day radio show with Andy Herman on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and on the free Odyssey app.
3rd and 15, Hurts from the end zone, intercepted, taken away by Xavier McKinney. The big offseason acquisition inside the 20.
Good morning, Packers Nation. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into the Pack a Day radio show. We are live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. My name is Andy Herman. Welcome into the Pack a Day radio show. We appreciate you guys being here Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. right here on The Fan, covering all things Green Bay Packers all the time. That was a huge Xavier McKinney interception in that very first game from a season ago, one of many that he would end up having, courtesy of NBC, of course. We've got Lily Zhao coming up, Fox 6 in Milwaukee. Also would love for you to join the show, Nicolay Law Fan Talking text line, 414-677-1250. Again, 677-1250. All right, we've got a lot to get into today. There's a couple things that I want to do. Tommy and I are going to go through our top 10 Green Bay Packers for 2025 here in just a moment. Really looking forward to that. I'm interested to see where Tommy's list comes out and how similar Tommy and I are on that list.
You're going to hate it.
But before we get there, I want to go through a couple of ESPN's recent lists, because they had Jordan Love in their top 10, or not in their top 10 quarterbacks, I should say. That one is a little bit more interesting from a quarterback standpoint, and just, I guess, from a ranking standpoint. If you look at kind of where they put him on that list. All right, so here's their top 10 list of quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes is number one, followed by Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, which I know those two being ranked, differently than each other. Some people thought Jackson should be 3, Burrow should be 4. We're not going to get into that today. Jaden Daniels at 5, which I also think is a little bit aggressive. Matthew Stafford at 6, Justin Herbert at 7, Goff at 8, and then Jalen Hurts at 9, Baker Mayfield at 10. Those are your top 10. You only had 2 honorable mentions. One of them was CJ Stroud. The other was your Jordan Love. I felt like for the most part, coming off the season that he had with some of the injuries, this is a fair ranking for Jordan Love. He's basically where either 11th or 12th on their list. Again, I think totally fair. But I really love actually what they say in this little blurb about Jordan Love. It says, quote, Love appeared ready for top 10 status by the end of 2023. He was blanking outstanding. An NFL personnel evaluator said about that stretch. Play action was on time, big arm, confidence. That shifted slightly in 2024 due in part to his week 1 knee injury that cost him 2 games. Quote, it looked like it took him time to work through managing that injury. Another full season with Matt LaFleur and more receiving options, and he'll be fine. So I feel like they're basically saying, listen, he was ready to be easily a top 10 quarterback in 2023. Injuries robbed him of that in 2024. Coming back with LaFleur and more receiving options, and he's going to probably be right back up there in 2026. So I feel like this is a fair ranking overall for Jordan Love. What say you, Tommy Wartz? Welcome in.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Good morning. I don't know. I think the list is fine with Jordan Love being off of it where he is. I think he should probably sneak into the 10th position. They have messed this whole list up. I mean, this list is just awful, actually, I think. The first 4 are just non-negotiable. Those guys have to be in the first 4, it feels like. I don't think Mahomes is probably number 1, to be honest. I would probably have him closer to 4 than closer to 1.
Okay.
But I have turned, you know me, I love to hate when I can hate. I am completely heel turning on Justin Herbert until he does something, because I just feel like he is a guy who has been force fed to the masses that he is good, and I don't see it. I don't have it. I understand he has some sort of arm talent, but if he was a year younger and he went number 1 to the Jags, and Trevor Lawrence was a year older and he went number 5 to the Chargers, I feel like they're the exact same player, and one guy is scrutinized all the time, and the other guy is the next big thing coming up in the NFL. So him at 7, I think I would have him out of the top 10 for sure. I think Stafford at 6 seems a little high, and Jalen Hurts at 9 is just disrespectful. He should definitely be 6 or 5, I think, on that list. He just won the Super Bowl, and he played like it all throughout the playoffs. He was the top passer in this league. So I think the list is horrendous after the first four. Even in the first four, it's not in the correct order. Jordan Love being at 12 doesn't make me so mad, but I think he probably should sneak in the back end of the top 10.
I think that's totally fair. I don't necessarily disagree with anything you said. I think the Herbert thing's interesting. I think, I have a book on NFL scouting, and it tells you all the things that you're supposed to look for in an NFL quarterback when you're watching these players and And if you would take that book and writing of what a quarterback should look like and be in everything and make it into a person, it's Justin Herbert.
Sure.
Like this is like the prototypical NFL quarterback, exactly what you're looking for. And I think to some people, to people who cover the NFL closely or put these lists together, NFL personnel people, etc., you see a Justin Herbert and you're like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I want, exactly what he should be, and it's all right there, right? And then I think for a lot of people, they just look at the actual results and it's like, it's fine.
Right.
But I'm not looking at some generational quarterback here. I think that's kind of where you get into this like 7 to 12 range with Justin Herbert. Again, could you put him lower? Probably. I'm not sure you could probably put him any higher on this list, but I think that's where some of the disconnect is of like, you look at the talent, the upside, the throws that he makes. And I even think some of the stuff is circumstantial with just not having the greatest receivers. I think last year finally getting a solid coach in Harbaugh, but he's been just in a weird situation there. I think that plays a part as well, but it is time if he wants to be, in this upper pantheon of quarterbacks, like you got to go deliver, get some playoff wins, have an MVP type season, go get, etc. Like he just has not done that.
The first thing you think of is him blowing the playoff game. I mean, that's what it is. The Chargers losing when they were up by 20 or whatever against Jacksonville a few years ago. Like that's where my brain goes immediately when Justin Herbert is brought up. And the crazier part of it here, Andy, is when you go look at where the highest and the lowest ranking are on all of these guys as well, too. And if you go to Jalen Hurts, his highest ranking among NFL execs was 6. And I can't believe that. The quarterback who just won the Super Bowl, won Super Bowl MVP, was really the reason they were so dominant, one of the reasons why they were so dominant in the playoffs. To say he was not or is not a top 5 quarterback, I think is just absolutely crazy disrespectful, and it's only going to add more fuel to like a Philadelphia fire, I think.
So this is, again, where you get into like, how do your surroundings affect you, right? I think if people would say, you take Justin Herbert, put him in Philly, and he's going to be winning MVPs and Super Bowls. You take Jalen Hurts and put him in the Chargers, and he's going to be a nobody. He's not going to be able to do anything with that group. It's not, maybe it's not fair. It probably isn't fair, but I think that's maybe some of the vision on some of this from some people. But yeah, it's an interesting list nonetheless. I'm fine with Jordan at number 12, long story short. The one that I am not fine with in any stretch of the imagination. So it's funny, Tommy, I've spoken out of kind of both ends of my mouth, and you're going to see this a little bit today as well. I have Zach Tom very, very high on my list of top 10 Packers today, which we're going to go through in just a moment. Very high. I also said recently on our overrated, underrated segment that I had him slightly on the overrated list. Not because he's not bad, not because he's not amazing, not because he's not great, just because people put him in that pantheon of top 5 tackle in the league. And I'm like, I just can't get there. I think he's really, really good. I love having him on the team. One of my favorite Green Bay Packers, no question about it. But if you want to talk about like all pro, and in that conversation, even first team or second team, like there's some really good tackles out there. So I thought from a Packers fan standpoint, I think they were maybe just a little bit too high on Zach Tom. However, ESPN put their top 10 tackles out. The top 10, Tristan Wirfs, Penei Sewell, Lane Johnson, Trent Williams, Jordan Mailata. And again, this is just kind of proving my point of like, those are 5 unbelievable offensive tackles. So it's really tough to break that group. Then Rashawn Slater, Laramie Tunsil, Deion Dawkins, Christian Darrisaw, and Andrew Thomas. Again, very good top 10. Honorable mention, Jake Matthews, Joe Alt, Ronnie Stanley, Colton Miller, Taylor Decker, and Bernard Raymond. 7 additional players. 6 additional players, none of whose name is Zach Tom. You now have 16 offensive tackles. Now, I don't know if the also receiving votes players are in order or not, but I know they're not in order via alphabetical order, either by team, first name, or last name. So I'm kind of assuming that these are in order of the votes that they received. And if that's the case, you get to number 17, Brian O'Neill, 18, Charles Cross, 19, Orlando Brown Jr., 20, Spencer Brown, 21, Paris Johnson Jr., 22, Luke Getke, 23, Garrett Bowles, and 24, Zach Tom. Number 24, potentially. At best, he's tied with a group of players at number 17. At worst, he's number 24. Tommy, that is absurd.
Yeah, underrated now. This is exactly where he wants you. I don't know if... Does right tackle get weighted differently than left tackle? Because it feels like right tackle has kind of been on the surge right now in the NFL, too. The highest paid tackle is a right tackle, isn't it?
I'd say apparently not, because the number 2 and 3 players on this list are both right tackles, and Penei Sewell and Lane Johnson. So I guess apparently not.
Yeah, I don't know why he would be that low on the list. Zach Tom is easily a top 20 tackle in the league. I mean, if you don't want to say he's top 5, I get it. Even 10, maybe you can stretch 10 guys better than him. But top 20 seems like all day easy. He should have been on that list.
Yeah, and to me, at absolute worst, should have been in that honorable mention group. And I think still very easily arguable. Like I would probably take him over Andrew Thomas at number 10. But again, it's a good group of 10. Again, like you said, if you squint, close enough, you could be like, all right, maybe number 11, maybe number 12, somewhere in that range. But not even being in that honorable mention group is, to me, beyond absurd. So, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. All right, listen to the Pack a Day Radio Show live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. We're going to be going through our top 10 Green Bay Packers for 2025. All right, so let's go number 10 first, Tommy. Who you got on your list at number 10?
I do have 2 quick honorable mentions, Evan Williams, Matthew Golden. All right? I didn't put any rookies in there, and I would not be surprised if Evan Williams is a top 10 Packer at the end of this season.
All right, just really quick, for whatever it's worth. Evan Williams, because I did full 90-1 when I did this for the podcast.
Okay.
Evan Williams was at number 14 on my list, and Matthew Golden was at number 18.
Okay.
If you're interested, for Bill Huber, Matthew Golden was at number 15. Evan Williams is actually at number 22, interestingly enough. That's right. His was most important Packers, though, not best Packers. So it's a little bit different. But so those are where those are at. But who's your number 10?
Yeah, if we were going with most important, he would be higher on this list, but we're going with best Packers. Yep. I tried to be a hater, but it's Rashawn Gary at number 10. That's where I have him. I just haven't seen it. And I think that every one of these players above him will have a better season. And so I'm weighing it a little bit on last year's production, a little bit on this year's production expected as well. So I have Rashawn Gary at number 10. Do you want me to go to 8 or something?
We'll stop
here?
there. Okay, we'll kind of go back and forth. So, all right. So you got Rashawn Gary at number 10. He is at number 7 on my list overall. We're going to talk about Rashawn Gary probably a little bit more tomorrow, because I want to talk about you top number 80 on NFL Network's top 100 players in the league. He was, I believe, 50 a year ago. He falls, I think, 30 spots to number 80. Some really interesting statistics that were put out over the last couple days on Rashawn Gary as well, which I think are going to be fun to look at. So we'll probably be talking a little bit more Rashawn Gary tomorrow, but certainly worthy inclusion at number 10. Again, I have him at number 7. Again, if you're interested for most important, Bill Huber had him at number 6.
Yeah.
All right, number 10 on my list is Elton Jenkins. So again, I think this has been a player that's been consistently solid, can play him at any spot on the line. He's going to make that transition to center. Unfortunately, right now is kind of going through the hold-in situation. Hopefully, they're able to get that resolved early on in training camp. But to me, I think this is right around where he belongs. And I think, again, I'm looking forward to, I think, even a better season from Jenkins, because I think he's going to excel at center.
Yeah, I have him a little bit higher. I won't say it yet because it's a little bit higher.
Oh, you can go. You can just, go.
He's at number 5 on my list.
Okay.
I think that his versatility is going to be utilized many times this year, and we are going to be very thankful that Elton Jenkins is playing for the Green Bay Packers, because I know his plan is to play center all year. I feel like that's going to switch up many times. He's going to someone's going to get banged up, and he's going to move over to guard. Someone's going to get banged up, and he might have to play tackle. I mean, his versatility, he is a top 5 Packer on this team, I think. And I put him on when you were gone, Andy. We did the All-Century team, and I think he is the only lineman that from this era right now that I would put in that All-Century team for the Green Bay Packers on the offensive line. So I had him at 5 on my list. Should I proceed to 9?
Yep, go for 9.
Tucker Kraft at number 9. I just think that he's going to have another great year. I think they're going to do a lot of packages with multiple tight ends, and I think he's the best tight end on the team. We've seen how valuable that weapon can be up the seam for other teams, and I think Green Bay is going to get in on that action.
I had Kraft at 6, so I was even higher on Tucker Kraft. I think he's going to have a monster season. We've heard from everyone that they want to even get him more involved in the offense. He's gotten better every step of the way. I can't even explain to people in his initial OTAs, minicamps, and rookie minicamps, dude was the most fish out of water, did not look ready at all. By the middle of the season 1, he was already looking really, really good. Season 2, he looks, like just a whole step better. And he works so insanely hard. I think that's only going to get better in 2025. So I think he's in due for just a monster season this upcoming year. All right, I've got number 9 on my list is Kenny Clark. Again, somebody that would consistently be usually much higher on this list. However, I thought, with the injury this past year, didn't quite perform to Kenny Clark's standards. He is getting a little bit older. I think his overall importance in the defense, while still extremely important, is not what, like before it was like Kenny Clark and like 10 other guys. Now he's kind of one piece in the one cog in the machine right now. So still love Kenny. I think he's going to have a big bounce back year, but he comes in at number 9 for me.
Kenny Clark was 7 on my list. I think that same area, though. I don't know if it's just because of his surroundings that's where he goes on this list, but obviously, I do think he bounces back. At number 8, Andy, might be high, but if we go back and look at the top 10 Packers of the 2024-25 season, if you don't have Brandon McManus on that list, you're wrong. Woo! I mean, you're just wrong. I put him at 8 right now. I think he's that level of kicker. He was completely changed the game last year for Green Bay, and I know it's kicker. How valuable can the position be? But that was Braden Narvison was kicking field goals for the Green Bay Packers last year. People forget, all right? And I think Brandon McManus, that signing and then locking him up, we talked about how big of a need that was to bring back and how important he was to re-sign for the Green Bay Packers. I have McManus at 8.
Justice and I last night where we were recording for today's episode, we're talking about Packers who could potentially make the Pro Bowl, and I put Brandon McManus in that category. He has never made one, surprisingly. There is a free agent that did make it as a specialist. That is McCole Hardman. He did make it as a punt returner previously in his career, but I do think McManus has it. I had McManus 22. Bill Huber had him 19, but I like the aggressiveness here, and I'm so happy that they have a good kicker. It just makes everything that much easier, better. We don't have to watch a kicking competition in training camp, so I'm all for this. As much as I think maybe it's a little over aggressive, I'm not going to argue it one iota, because he is going to be a very important player for this team this upcoming season. All right, so I had Jaden Reed at number 8. I know that the second half of last year, it hit a little bit of a wall. I think an injury to the shoulder had a lot to do with that. He was fantastic as a rookie. He was fantastic in the first half of last season. I don't think the second half was indicative of who he is at all. Every single time you get the ball in this guy's hands, he's a playmaker, and I think he's going to be able to maybe focus on receiver a little bit more, probably not be the punt returner this year, and I think he's, again, going to have a monster season. So Jaden Reed, number 8 for me. You had Clark at 7. I had Gary at 7. I had Tucker Kraft at 6. You have not done your number 6 yet, so I'll let you go there.
I don't have Jaden Reed on my top 10, by the way.
Okay. I think that's fair.
Just to put it out there, I have no receivers other than Kraft and no defensive backs on this list. My top
There's no
5,
way you had one defensive back on this list. You may not have had a corner on this list.
I didn't have a corner on this list. Sorry.
Fair enough.
I will say this. My top 5 was limited to just studs, guys who I think are just studs on this team. Number 6, right before stud, Jordan Love. That's where I have Jordan Love. I think that, and I had Elton at 5. I think Elton's a little more valuable at guard than Love might be at quarterback, and that's not a knock necessarily on Jordan Love. It's a little more praise for Elton Jenkins, especially if he's moving into center. But I know there's a lot of people who are hating on Jordan Love, and we just had a whole list about hating on Jordan Love from ESPN pretty much. I understand some of it, but I do think that he can be the guy who grows the most on this list. He's going to be a good quarterback. I just think that the Packers have 5 guys who are studs at their position.
All right. I love it. I know who your final 4 are then. And I think we're pretty much in lockstep here. I have Jordan Love at number 4. So not anything super aggressive past number 6. I think he's going to end up at number 1 on this list next year. Hopefully that is end up being the case. But for right now, just coming off some of the injuries that he had last year, still think he's really good. If you haven't had the chance to check out the episode with Warren Sharp that I did on the podcast, definitely check that out, because he was extremely bullish on Jordan Love. But for me, number 4 on this list of Green Bay Packers. Number 5 for me, just going back for a second, was Edgerrin Cooper. He could easily end up again higher on this list. He's an absolute stud, and I'm assuming he's probably going to be number 4 for you, Tommy. You're right around there.
I have Zach Tom at number 4 on my list. Andy, yes. I have Cooper at 3.
Okay.
I think he's going to be really good, and I'm all in on investing on him. And after I made the top 2, I was like, I should probably go 10-1 after that, but the top 2 seem pretty easy, and then number 3 seems like really up in the air on who could be the third best player on the Green Bay Packers. And why not Edgerrin Cooper? I mean, the guy was so exciting last year, and when he figured it out in that second half, he's one of the best linebackers in the league.
Yeah, I said he can be the best linebacker in the league, and I expect him to have a Pro Bowl or maybe even All Pro season this year if he plays at his absolute best. If he played all 17 last year, I believe he would have been Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's that type of player, and I think he could have potentially been a Pro Bowl player even in 2024 had he played the entire season. So just needs to stay healthy, put on some weight. I'm really excited for that season for Edgerrin Cooper coming up. I had Zach Tom at number 2, so that's again how high I had him on this list. Josh Jacobs was number 3 for me, which of course means that the remaining number 1 was Xavier McKinney. Who did you have at 2 and who did you have at 1, Tommy?
I had Josh 1, I had X 2.
Okay.
I just think
I think is fair.
Offense is more valuable, right? And he's scoring touchdowns. He's the guy that I think is going to be the focal point of the offense this year. If you didn't believe that going into this season, look at the free agent and draft focus for the Green Bay Packers. They brought in an offensive lineman in Aaron Banks. They invested in Anthony Belton in round 2. I just think that the Packers want to get to ground and pound football again, and maybe be more so that might hurt Jordan Love, and maybe that hurts him on this list for me, but I think Josh Jacobs is probably the best player in the Green Bay Packers.
And based on last season, it's a very easy argument to make. He was my highest graded player on the team this past year, so I totally understand that. I have no qualms with that. I could have put these, especially these top 3, Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney, from even Zach Tom. I could have put these in a lot of different orders and have no issue with Jacobs or McKinney being any scenario at number 1 or number 2 on that list. So Tommy's list: number 10, Rashawn Gary, followed by Tucker Kraft, Brandon McManus, Kenny Clark, Jordan Love, Elton Jenkins, Zach Tom, Edgerrin Cooper, Xavier McKinney, and Josh Jacobs. For me, number 10, Elton Jenkins, followed by Kenny Clark, Jaden Reed, Rashawn Gary, Tucker Kraft, Edgerrin Cooper, Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Zach Tom, and Xavier McKinney. All right, we are going to get to Lily Zhao here in just a moment. Excited to talk with her. If you missed anything on any of our shows all week long, whether it be Wisconsin Sports Daily, the Leadoff Show, Mason Crosby Show, or right here on the Pack a Day Radio Show, you can check us out for free on the Odyssey app or thefanmilwaukee.com. Right now, 76 and sunny in Milwaukee, high of 84 today, low of 71. We'll be right back with Lily Zhao. This is the Pack a Day Radio Show, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Welcome back to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Reminder that the Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Thunder Nellis is coming up next from 9 to 11 right here on The Fan. Joining us now on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law, is the one and only Lily Zhao. You can find her at Lily S. Zhao on social media, Fox 6 sports anchor and reporter. Lily, it has been far too long. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, Andy. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing? You've been busy.
I have been busy. I am doing great. I feel a little bit refreshed after the vacation. Got another little small one coming up this weekend to Wisconsin Dells before all the madness and craziness starts next week on Wednesday for training camp. And then, of course, carries us through June and mini camp and OTAs again. So I'm ready. I'm refreshed, and I can't wait to get training camp started.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a nice, off season, but I'm ready for some football, and I can't believe it's right around the corner. It's crazy.
And from a Wisconsin sports standpoint, obviously the Brewers have done a great job of carrying us through this Packers offseason portion. They've been on fire as of late. Some really fun stories with them, and obviously Mizorowski. The Bucks making crazy moves and releasing Dame and bringing in Miles Turner. There's certainly not been a lack of conversation there. So some good Wisconsin sports stuff to kind of keep us busy. I'm going to ask you about a couple of those things in just a moment as well. But I know we do have training camp coming up next week. I just got to ask you, Lily, what's your training camp plan? Are you going to be down there quite a bit? What are you going to be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to try my best to go as many days as I can. I know you'll be there every single day. I would love to do that, but being in Milwaukee, it's not as feasible as being back when I was in Green Bay. But yeah, I'll plan to be there. I'm excited to see just, again, guys with the pads on, this team's vibe is. We talk about vibes every year, just how they flow as a group when they're all together, the pads are on. I kind of wanted to see who emerges as leaders out there as well. Again, this is a younger team, but there are guys who've been there for multiple years. How do they lead the young guys? What do the new coaching staff, what do they look like? So I'm excited to see all elements of it, but most importantly, I'm just excited to see it back. I mean, the fans in Titletown, the atmosphere around training camp, you know how it is. I mean, it's so exciting. And once you finally get there and bikes are coming out, I mean, and there's nothing better. So I'm just excited to see it get going. But then once it does get going, it's all right, we're looking at position battles and who's winning what and who's impressing who. And, what are the X factors that we're talking about at training camp? Because every year there's a guy or two or three that pops off and we're thinking he's making the 53-man roster. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Everything being back and the storylines that are going to follow.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I'm glad you brought up the leadership aspect because I am interested to see some of the voices that kind of step up. We've started to see Tucker Kraft get a little bit more. Even Jordan Love has become a little bit more vocal. Also, some of these players that they add are interesting. Like Nate Hobbs is a veteran that you add into that secondary. Now, they have guys like Keyshawn Nixon, Xavier McKinney already, so maybe there's not this void in leadership, but how does he kind of get in that situation? Even McCole Hardman ends up in this interesting situation where he's fighting for his roster life, but he's the veteran in that group. He is the oldest and the most tenured wide receiver on the entire roster. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic as well. So I'm very interested to see just who kind of takes on some of those leadership mantles within not only the team as a whole, but in some of those individual position groups as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned some great names, Nate Hobbs, Nicole Hardman, and then, of course, the guys that have been there, right? I think Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, those guys this offseason were talking about just how big leadership was for this team and just embracing that role for everybody coming into Green Bay. And, of course, Kenny doing some film session studies at his house and bringing the defense together when Jordan Love, what he's able to do. So the usual suspects there as leaders you want to see, but again, the new guys, how do they kind of mold into the system? How does Aaron Banks fit? All these new guys, you want to see how they mesh with the current Packers and who really just does step up in those veteran roles. So excited to see that and also kind of just ready to kick things going. I'm like, is it next Wednesday yet? Let's get going.
I know. It's like so close yet so far. You can taste it, but it's still over a week away. It's like, all right, just get here already. Cannot wait to be out there. It just feels like a rite of passage in the summer for, especially in Green Bay. Like the whole world revolves around that, 1265 in this city. And as soon as you get the vibes going around, it's just a magical time and place. And if anyone has not been there for training camp yet, get down there if you possibly can, because it's just such a special and cool thing this time of year. You talked about some of the kind of the key storylines to kind of keep an eye on, but training camp is an interesting animal where we are all deprived of basically any like actual Packers football since way back in January. We get a little bit of mini camp and OTAs, but it's not actually real. And then, we get here and we're so starved for like actual football that every little thing feels important. And sometimes we can glean something from it. Other times it's like, it's probably actually not that important. But what is the one thing for you that we need to learn or maybe can learn from this Packers team in training camp that is maybe most interesting to you?
That's a really good question. I think there are a couple position battles that we will be talking about into the fall. But I think the one that outside of offensive line and receiver I'm looking forward to is cornerback. Obviously, you lose Jair Alexander. I think there was a lot of talk about him potentially being in town, and we learned he's not. He's being let go. And so, what does that cornerback room look like without him? You lose a couple other guys in the offseason as well. So, what does Matt LaFleur? What do Jeff Hafley? How do they kind of mold that room into the best cornerback room without a Pro Bowler like Jair Alexander back there? So I'm interested to see the cornerback battle. And also another tidbit would be Marshawn Lloyd. I'm excited to see him just put some pads on and freaking play some running back. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Missed him last year in his rookie season, but he's back. I know he's planning to give it 100%. So I'm excited to see what he can do in that running back room. And then obviously how they figure out the cornerback situation as well.
I recently did a list for actually this upcoming weekend's episode of the 10 most intriguing and interesting Green Bay Packers for this upcoming season. Marshawn Lloyd was the very first player out of my mouth, just because I think it's such a unique player where, we just didn't get to see any of them this past year. And we've heard even from Matt LaFleur, the playmaking potential that he has. And we saw him look really, really good in training camp a year ago. So he is definitely one of those very intriguing players in camp for me as well. And then I love the corner room as well for a variety of different reasons. I think number one, just where even some of these guys lining up. I think number two is what does that starting trio look and feel like with Hobbs, Nixon, and Valentine? And then I'm sure Javon Bullard getting some time in there as well. But then the depth, like that competition in that second group between Kalen King, Micah Robinson, Kamal Haddon, and really anybody else. Like if you're a corner on this Packers roster, like the number 4 corner spot is attainable for you, regardless of who you are. Like go grab it. And I'm really interested to see who steps up to the plate in those kind of backup cornerback roles as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I love the fact that we have training camp coming up, because these young guys just have a chance to grab it. I think coming into the season, if Jair Alexander had been in that cornerback room, you're talking about, okay, maybe these are guys that are just going to be kind of happy with some backup roles. But now there is another role that they could go and get. So intrigued to see how Nate Hobbs and where he kind of fits inside, outside, where they put him. That'll be intriguing as well. And then obviously if Mecole Hardman makes the team, it's, does he take on a more of a returner role? Does Keyshawn Nixon focus more on quarterback? So there are some domino pieces that will happen depending on who makes the roster. But just kind of intrigued to see how it all does shake out back there in the secondary too.
Suppose we shouldn't forget our favorite Bo Melton back there at potential cornerback as well, which is another unique storyline of this entire corner room. So we'll be keeping an eye on all of that stuff. Starting next week on Wednesday, we're being joined by Lily Zhao, Fox 6 sports anchor and reporter in Milwaukee. You can find her on social media at Lily S. Zhao. All right. Tommy and I talked about this a little bit in the first segment, but 2 of the ESPN top 10 rankings came out, I believe it was earlier this week or maybe even late last week, at quarterback and offensive tackle. Quarterback Jordan Love was not a top 10 quarterback. He was an honorable mention along with CJ Stroud. There were only 2 honorable mentions, so he's either number 11 or number 12 on that list. How do you feel about Jordan Love being in that honorable mention list? Should he have been higher? Should he have been lower? Or does it feel about right?
I feel like if you ask Jordan Love, he'd be like, I don't care, right? These rankings are rankings for a reason. People love them, people hate them. But, for him, we can talk about the back half of his first season, going into the playoffs, beating the Cowboys. You see the potential of what Jordan Love can be long-term for Green Bay. The first year and his second year as a starter, or first game, gets injured. And you can kind of tell it just affected him the entire year with multiple injuries. So he wasn't as sharp as he was kind of the back end of his rookie season. And, again, we see the potential. We see what's out there. You add some new weapons. You add some more protection around him. He's got a lot of fancy, toys to play with on the offense. So you kind of expect him to be the Jordan Love that we saw the back end of that rookie season, and hopefully no injuries do hamper him. And if that is the case, I do think he is a top 10 quarterback, but I think people look at last season as a quote unquote, not disappointment, but not where they thought Jordan Love would be in his second year as a starter. And so maybe that's why he was an honorable mention. But again, quarterbacks that are in there. I mean, deservedly so. I mean, Jaden Daniels at 5, interesting. But you talk about the quarterbacks in there, the caliber that there is in the NFL, and sure, whatever. Jordan Love can be number 11, but I think at the end of the day, when the season does roll around, I think he will be a top 10 quarterback and hopefully top 5.
I think so too. I think he's got all of that in front of him. And I think when we're talking about this list next year, we'll very much be talking about a top 10 quarterback on that list. Zach Tom, meanwhile, not in the top 10, not an honorable mention, was at the bottom of the list of others receiving votes. At best, he's tied for number 17. At worst, he's number 23 on that list. That seems ridiculously low for Zach Tom. How did you feel about that ranking in particular?
Yeah, I did feel that was low, but for whatever reason, I just feel like every position outside of left tackle and left guard with Elgton Jenkins, it just hasn't really been looked at nationwide as a premier spot for a player to really shine. And it's weird because I feel like Zach Tom at right tackle has, played his butt up. I thought he would at least deserve an honorable mention or be at least higher up in the list. I know he's, looking this year, probably not to get, I'm sure his priorities are not, let me get national recognition, but why not? I mean, if you're playing your tail off and you're protecting your quarterback and your sack rate is low and what you're doing up there is phenomenal, why not get the recognition? So I thought he would have been higher, so it was disappointing to see him ranked 17th, you said. And so hopefully this season is the season that he does get recognized. Because, again, there are some Pro Bowlers on that offensive line that they've come through. Elgton Jenkins moving to center. We'll see how he does there. But when you have Pro Bowlers on the offensive line, let's shift our attention to the right side and give Zach Tom some love.
Yeah, he certainly deserves it. And it could make for some interesting contract negotiations as well with Zach Tom, because there are definitely some different views of where Zach Tom ranks in the upper echelon of offensive tackles. Many saying he's, should be a top 5 guy. Others, again, in that 20th range. And I think that could make for an interesting conversation between the Packers and Zach Tom for what they're going to pay him. Speaking of those contract conversations, you brought up Elgton Jenkins. There's the potential for a hold-in. I don't think we're going to see a holdout because that would cost Elgton Jenkins a significant amount of money, but I think he'll be there and he'll be along the sidelines in the quote unquote rehab group. So I think you'll have a potential hold-in situation there if they can't come to a conclusion on that. And then Anthony Belton's mirrored in this second round draft pick situation that has been a plague around the league right now. Only 2 second round picks have signed. Nobody else has. Trey Harris for the Chargers is already, not reporting with their rookies because he does not have that contract done. So you have 2 potential offensive linemen in Green Bay that could not be practicing when camp opens if we don't get some conclusion here. Yeah,
and that's what's going to be interesting because obviously at the end of the day, if you want Elgton Jenkins to come back, and I know the Packers do, he's playing center. It's a very important position. And I know for him, he wants, just financial security. I completely understand with the move from left guard to center. I totally get it. So he wants that financial stability. I'm thinking the Packers are working hard to get him back because that position is so important for a quarterback. We all know it. And for Anthony Belton, I think it just is so important for him as a rookie to be at camp. I mean, there's no injury. It's just the contract. And we all know how important these reps are because if you're not getting out there, somebody else is competing for a potential starting spot that you could have. So I'm hoping they get things ironed out with these second round picks, including Anthony Belton. I think it's going to be invaluable for him to get some training camp reps. So they need him on the field as soon as possible. So hopefully something gets rectified soon.
That would be nice. And one of the things, and I know people are like, oh, they spent the second round pick on Anthony Belton, the first round pick on Jordan Morgan. This already goes to show you just, again, some of the depth that they have at the offensive line, that their second round pick and their, one of their top players in Elgton Jenkins could be gone. And you could still theoretically be looking at an offensive line to kick off camp of Rasheed Walker, Aaron Banks, Sean Ryan, Jordan Morgan, and Zach Tom 1 through 5. And it's like, all right, well, that's still a really darn good offensive line. So again, just kind of start showing you the depth that they have, but certainly everyone's going to want Elgton Jenkins and Anthony Belton out there practicing and getting acclimated to this 2025 Packers offense. We're being joined by Lily Zhao. Follow her on social media at Lily as Zhao, Fox 6 sports anchor and reporter right here in Milwaukee. All right, last but not least, Lily, there have been some of those other really fun stories across Wisconsin sports that you've had the opportunity to cover. Of course, Jacob Mizorowski is going to be apparently pitching in the 7th inning of the All-Star game, so kind of looking forward to that. Andrew Vaughn has been this incredible story over the last week. Again, you've got the Miles Turner and Dame situation amongst a million other things that are going on as well. What's kind of top of your mind and what's been kind of fun for you to kind of cover over these past few weeks?
Ooh, good question. I would still say the Brewers, just because they're here, they're in town. It's the All-Star break, and just it's been such a crazy week leading into the break. I mean, they won 7 in a row, so every single game leading up to the break. You talk about the individual storylines. Trevor McGill learns he's an all-star. Then Jacob Mizrachi learns there's an all-star. There's an uproar over the Miz being an all-star, of course, from some other players in the league, leading to a bunch of discussion. And then Andrew Vaughn, that piece, I know some White Sox fans who I'm friends with are like, what is happening? How did he just become this amazing batter when he went to Milwaukee and he didn't do things in Chicago? I get it. So there have been a lot of just really fun individual storylines with the Brewers leading up to the break, and the fact that they're one game back at the Cubs is really fun. And so that's what stood out to me. I think Miles Turner, once he's physically in Milwaukee and we can see him and talk with him, that'll kind of be even more exciting. So I know he was introduced in Vegas, so we didn't get a chance to physically see him and talk with him, but it's an exciting time. And then once Packers starts, Andy, I mean, we're full go. I mean, I'm ready.
Yeah, I am too. And I do think if this comes to fruition the way that it looks like, the Cubs Brewers second half of the baseball season is going to be one of the really fun just kind of storylines, because I could easily see those two just going back and forth when they play each other. It's going to be, as it always is, going to be tense and epic. And yeah, I could see a second half of the year where that rivalry really sparks and really, comes down to the final potential week of the season between those two to see who gets that maybe the top spot in the NL, or at least in the conversation, one of the top two spots in the NL, and who's left as a wild card team. So I think that is going to be a very fun just kind of battle through the second half of the season, one that I know I'll be obviously 99.9% focused on the Packers, but 0.1% of me is just going to be keeping an eye over my shoulder on where the Brewers and Cubs are in the standings, that's for sure. Lily, you are phenomenal. Tell us where we can find all of your incredible work and anything you want to plug on the way out.
Yeah, absolutely. Lily S. Sow on Twitter, like you've kindly mentioned. And then if you're in the Milwaukee area, tune into Fox 6. We also have the All-Star game tonight on our air. So tune in and, try to find me.
She does an unbelievable job covering all things Wisconsin sports and is going to be doing an even better job covering the Packers at training camp coming up. So make sure you're following her on all social media and, of course, tuning into Fox 6 Sports as well. She's joined us on the fan guest hotline powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Lily, we will do this again very soon. I'm looking forward to seeing you at camp. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Andy. You too.
You are more than welcome. Again, follow her, Lily S. Zhao, on social media. This has been the Pack-A-Day Radio Show. We'll be right back with more Pack-A-Day Radio Show right after this. Welcome back to the Pack a Day Radio Show. A huge thank you to Lily Zhao for joining us this past segment. Reminder that Mason Crosby Show is coming up next with Mitch Thunder Nellis. And yes, Mason is back today. Also, just a reminder, Pack a Day Radio Show is also now a podcast. You can find it anywhere on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite pods. Also on YouTube. Catch the full episode, listen by individual hour, or jump straight to the highlights. Just open up your favorite podcast app, search Pack a Day Radio Show, and hit the follow button so you get every minute of the show your way and on your time. And again, you can find it on YouTube as well. When you're doing that, check out the Pack a Day podcast as well, and make sure you are following that. We have no leadoff show today, Tommy, because there's no Brewers baseball. It is the All-Star break, of course, but I would be remiss not to ask you for your scouting report of round 16's Parker Coyle, left-handed pitcher out of Arkansas. Brewers got an absolute stud in round 16. Break it down for me, Tommy.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have zero idea about the 16th round pick for the Milwaukee Brewers in the draft. But I mean, Andrew Fisher, their first round pick, I did hear a little bit about. I know him through adjacency to some of his teammates from people I know that have gone there.
So you're basically best friends.
Right, exactly. And he talked a little bit yesterday with some of the media members that we got to sit in on the Zoom call for it. And he sounds pretty excited. I mean, how could you not be if you are a first round pick in the MLB draft, right? He did reach base every single game last year. That's a fun stat, I think, for talking about Andrew Fisher. Third base is going to be a very competitive position for him to come up, though. Just within the Brewers farm right now, it's probably, I could see him coming up sooner than later, but it's still like a stacked position for the farm, and I really think first base would benefit him more, but
I think that's where he's going to end up.
Very open to all positions, he said. Todd Johnson did originally say, Brewers director of scouting, said that he was going to be brought up as a third baseman originally, but once Made, Pratt, and Pena are all up, I don't know how he fits in at third base. So I would assume he'll be at one of the corner infield positions.
It's also one of those things where, you look on paper and you're like, oh, look at all the infielders that they have and things like that. And then one or two of these guys end up going out, or you're either maybe not working out the way that you expect, or going out in a trade for someone somewhere. And it never quite works out the way that you're totally expecting it to. Sure. When you look at like the top 5, top 10 of, your depth chart in the minors and things like that. So yeah, we'll see where he ends up. I think he does have the opportunity to go through the minors pretty quick. Hopefully that comes to fruition. And I think he'll ultimately end up at first base. But like you said, with the Brewers, just play him, keep him as many places as he can, and then they can kind of figure it out over time. And they do a great job of just finding ways to get those guys on the field. And obviously now with DH2, it's totally different. So just hit the dang ball, and like he did in college with power and with efficiency. And if he does that, the Brewers will find a way to get him on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that too, they had Brady Abel, who was the 32nd overall pick. He was the comp pick for Willy Adames signing with the San Francisco Giants. So they pick up another infielder, 18 years old, out of Corona High School. Andy, I believe 3 people from that high school got drafted in the first round. That is maybe just, it's got to be, and they didn't win the state championship. Like, that's the other part that's crazy. They lost in the state championship game to John Bosco, which is obviously one of the football powerhouses out there in high school California. But that's got to be just the coolest senior year ever, probably, to have 3 first-round picks on your baseball team.
I don't even know if I've had a baseball player drafted from my high school, like in history. I'm assuming there probably was at some point, like it's just like by happenstance, by accident. They're like, oh, we'll take somebody from Preble High School in Green Bay. We did have Kevin Stempke, the punter. He was Tony Bennett, the basketball player and basketball coach. He went to Green Bay Preble. So we've had an NBA player drafted, and I'm sure again at some point we had a major league player drafted. I guess maybe, who knows? But yeah, to have 3 first rounders in one draft is beyond absurd. The other thing that's absurd, first of all, the baseball draft is absurd in and of itself. Like all these other sports, like the draft feels like the lifeblood, so important. Everyone's tuned in. The NFL draft is an event, and the Major League Baseball draft goes 25 rounds, and it's like, did it even happen? Does anyone, like, it's barely discussed. It's just a remarkable juxtaposition to other drafts that baseball probably needs to do a better job of marketing that and just figuring out a way to kind of make it so that it feels a little bit more important. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know how they do that. These guys they're all going to take a year. The best player out of that draft it's going to take a year before they even come up.
I mean, the Major League Baseball draft is basically just like a Packers draft. It's going to take them 2, 3, 4 years in order to become a good player.
Every MLB draft is Aaron Rodgers at pick number 24. Every single one.
Is.
Yes.
It's going to take 3-4 years. That's very well said. The other thing that's crazy to me, and it just kind of goes to show you again, we've talked about this a little bit, I think with Mitch as well, of like with youth sports and where it's headed, you get these pitchers now that have been drafted. I think the Brewers had one as well. I think like the number 3 overall pick also was in that conversation, where you hear it's like, yep, they took him 3rd overall. He's had Tommy John surgery in high school. It's like he's had Tommy John surgery in high school. Like It's just remarkable that, again, some of the wear and tear, and we talked about, I see it. I'm my son coming up, because he does sports like almost every single day, either in right now in summer school or just soccer training. He's in basketball, he's in speed training, he's in gymnastics, he's in all this stuff. It ends up being like a year-round sort of thing. I specifically have coming up about a 12-day period of time where he doesn't have a single thing, just to try to get him some rest on his body. We just did obviously the 8-day or 7-day trip to Spain, where I wanted to make sure that he wasn't doing any specific sports. We've got a 5-day one coming up this weekend, where I'm just trying to get him at age 11 some rest on his body, because I'm very acutely aware of, like, I don't need a torn ACL at age 14 for this kid, because it's just overworked. But it is remarkable to see, like, Tommy John surgery in high school for some of these pitchers.
It also prevents a lot of burnout for a lot of this too, right? When they're that young as well. And it's sad when I hear, I didn't make it to the pros by any means, but I could have probably played some D3 offers along the way. And but like, all these guys are so specialized now too, and this is another like old man screaming at cloud, like, go out and play sports. The first, I think it was the first round, it was either Fisher or Abel. One of their dads was a high school wrestling coach. Like, he is the wrestling coach over there. And they had asked him if he had wrestled. It's like, yeah, I did until freshman year, and then I like locked in on baseball. It was like, what do you mean? Like, you can definitely do both. I understand that you want to invest all the way in, but like, be more versatile is always a huge thing in pro sports now, is versatility, and playing these other sports like can get you to that level, I think. And so I was always doing something every season. Again, I never locked in on anything like that. I knew I didn't have pro aspirations by any means, but it just makes me like a little annoyed that you get centralized kids at 14 at this point trying to make it.
It's earlier than that. It's earlier than that. Let me tell you that. But let's make this. Let's hit the Potawatomi Sportsbook final thought of the day.
You got to do some smart thinking.
It's time for Andy Herman's final thought of the day.
What are you thinking?
Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
What the hell were you thinking?
You're listening to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, The Fan.
Not our initial planned Potawatomi Sportsbook final thought of the day, but very on topic. Sam Decker, July 9th, just 6 days ago, tweets, all your sports goats played as many sports as they could until they were 17 to 18 years old. I don't understand the idea of specializing your kids in one singular sport too early. There's no point. Let them play whatever they want. It's good for them in so many ways. So, Tommy, you are not old man yelling at cloud, unless I guess Sam Decker is as well. But Sam Decker, at minimum, is in lockstep with you, and I'm in agreement as well. It's why I try to get Xavier, my oldest son, despite him focusing on soccer, basketball is such a great cross-training sport for him. He does gymnastics. He does a couple other things. He does some flag football just for fun mixed in there as well. And it just trains his body to move in a variety of different ways. And it's just, again, it keeps him fresh and not burnt out on just one sport through the entirety of the year.
No, I completely agree with you, Andy. I think you should just play as many as you can. And also, like, I remember my senior year just joining the golf team because I just wanted to play golf. Like, I didn't care how I ended up by the end of it, right? I mean, I know it's hard to, like, lock in. I am a competitive person by all means, but I knew I was coming into this, like, having never played the sport, like, just trying to get better, right? And that's just something that's always good for life, too, is trying new things to attempt to get better at them and become more well-versed and well-rounded. And teaching that lesson of, if you're not an elite person at an activity, to not commit to it is a terrible life lesson, I think, for kids.
We are 1,000,000% in lockstep on that. We'll talk to the real athlete coming up in just a moment, Mitch Nellis, on what he thinks maybe about this. We've got Mitch and Mason coming up here in just a moment. We've got a lot more to get to as we transition over to the Mason Crosby Show. Do not go anywhere.